This show is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. The content on this show is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such condition.
This is Rooted in Healing with Dr. Beth Claxton, exploring the science of functional medicine and the power of healing from within. Breathe in. Breathe out. And now your host, Dr. Beth Claxton.
Welcome to the show. This is my first episode of Rooted in Healing. I'm Dr. Beth Claxton, board certified in obstetrics and gynecology, and certified in functional medicine through the Institute for Functional Medicine. I'd like to tell you a little bit about functional medicine. I started realizing that health was so much more than just having people come in and have a 5-minute appointment, 10-minute appointment, or rush through their history, do a quick physical exam and give them a prescription. It's so much deeper than that. And functional medicine was the answer to a prayer that I'd had for a really long time. Functional medicine looks at the entire person. And not only that, it's a patient-centered approach. So we take the consideration of what the person in front of us it wants to do, how they want to invest in their health, how much they want to invest in their health. Are they all in or are they holding back? And we meet them exactly where they are. The practitioner and the patient decide in functional medicine what the first step is. People often ask me, well, tell me what I should do. And I say, we're going to talk about this together. We're going to decide what you're going to do together. And actually, you're the one that's going to make that decision. It looks at the body as an entire system responding to one environment. It's not each organ system is completely independent of another organ system because in reality, our body is connected through nerves and connective tissue and muscles and tendons, and the soup that makes up our circulatory system and hormones and inflammation and the immune system, it's all connected and the body works as a whole. So in my journey to functional medicine, I also found mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is a meditation course. This was probably my first aha moment. I took this course almost 15 years ago and realized this is a missing link in medicine. So I trained to teach that. I said, I want to be a part of this. I want to make a difference. I want something different besides what I am doing now. And then when I started to see how people could shift just by learning how to breathe and how to follow their thoughts and respond to their stressors differently, it made me very curious and I kept looking for more. And I was introduced to the practice, the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda, and became an Ayurvedic yoga health coach where I walked people through 10 Ayurvedic steps that they incorporate into their life that made a huge difference for me. And maybe someday we can talk about my story, but right now, this is what I'm doing. I have a functional medicine practice that looks at stress reduction, and I incorporate a lot of Ayurveda, and there are so many other modalities that I'm discovering that help people find more optimal health. And not everything is for everybody, which is why I wanted to have this show to explore all these different modalities, and maybe one will speak to you. They all have a place in our healing environment and how everybody's responding to their own environment. So I hope that with all these interviews that I'm so excited to share with you, we can find something that may resonate with you that may speak to you, and you can look into it more and maybe find answers to questions that you've had that maybe you've been told there weren't any answers. I want you to keep looking. I want you to keep digging. I want you to find that root of what's going on for you. So today we have my very first interview with my friend May Tom. May is a registered dietitian, a master's of public health, and also certified in functional medicine. She has a booming YouTube channel and an Instagram channel. She calls herself a nerd, practitioner, and detective. And I've known May for several years, and whenever we get together, we just start talking and digging about functional medicine and root cause and all these new discoveries that are being made that can really help people. And I so enjoy talking to her. It was actually hard to cut the interview off. So we will come back to meet with May. You're on Mellow Mountain Radio.
For more information on Dr. Beth Claxton, visit bethclaxtonmd.com. And now, more Rooted in Healing with Dr. Beth Claxton.
Welcome back, and thank you. I'm Dr. Beth Claxton, and this is Rooted in Healing. I had the pleasure of having a conversation with May Tom. May is a registered dietitian and actually one of the first dietitians certified through the Institute for Functional Medicine. And we had a conversation. I wanted to start this show with an interview that looked at what is functional medicine, because there is a lot of information out there about functional medicine now. And I wanted my friend May, who was one of the first registered dietitians ever certified by the Institute for Functional Medicine, to sit down with me and really hash through the roots and the meaning of functional medicine. And now here's my interview with May. Welcome, May.
Thank you for having me, Beth.
Oh, you're welcome. It's like so fun to start this with you, because functional medicine is really starting to get on mainstream. And I know that people have heard about it, and I wanted to start off with you and have a little talk about what is functional medicine so that people understand this when they see it come up. So what do you think, in your experience, since you've been certified, what is functional medicine?
I love starting with this question because I think, again, like you said, it's starting to get mainstream, but people hear it and don't know the difference. So, I would say traditional medicine manages illness and is very good at illness management or disease, diagnoses and treatment. Mm-hmm. And the whole movement of functional medicine is to return to the focus of what medicine was intended for, which is to optimize health and to optimize function. So that word function really is emphasizing the body's function in all aspects and having that actually look healthy, instead of the focus being disease and identifying disease and treating disease. Because when we're so focused on disease, we miss the whole spectrum of health that the majority of us are in and want to stay in. And right. That spectrum varies, right? There's plenty of people who will never be necessarily labeled a disease like diabetes, who still have impaired function when it comes to processing sugar in their body, right?
Right.
And the functional medicine would be looking at, well, why are you so tired? Why are you struggling with belly fat? Why is it you get hangry? And then going and peeling back the layers to say, wow, something's actually not functioning optimally. Let's go and look at that and ask why. Mm-hmm. So I would say that's a huge part, is root cause. Maybe this is a term that's thrown around, but really looking for the root cause of why someone's not feeling optimal, and not necessarily just looking for disease and how to treat disease.
Right. Yeah, that's great. And one of the things that I've noticed, having feet in both worlds, is people used to come to me when I was a Western medicine provider and say, I just don't feel good. And, we'd run some blood work and listen to their heart and lungs and tell them, you look fine to me. And, maybe get more sleep. We had no idea. And that was the impetus for me progressing into functional medicine and being curious, because I knew that there was something going on and I wasn't helping these people. And, once I started doing functional medicine, I would do labs and say, these people, things are out of balance. They're starting to develop autoimmunity. And maybe in 10 years, this would look like Hashimoto's. And right now, they look pretty normal. So it's really helpful to dig into, like you said, maintaining the function, optimal function in the body.
Yeah, the other way I think of it too is like catching things upstream, and this is by definition what prevention is all about, right?
Right.
It's like the ball has been rolling down this hill for quite some time, or maybe just got started, but we know where it's going to end up, like you said, 10 years from now.
Right.
And how do we catch as many things upstream as possible? And there's a lot we can do that is outside of necessarily medications, right? I think medications are like the nuclear weapons that we bring out at the end,
Exactly.
And what are some lifestyle and dietary and even, alternative tools that we have in our tool belt that could really change the trajectory of this downward progression that someone is on.
Yeah, exactly.
And like you said, there's intuition, there's symptoms, there's lab work that would indicate where that person really is at. And then we're able to alter it,
Right. I've had people come to me who are working night shift. And while night shift is super important, we need that in our current culture to keep things going. I think there's a time and a place for people to work night shift. And when it's over for you, it's time to be over, because I see people change their sleep schedule just by going off of night shift, and things, their health returns back to normal.
Oh yeah, that's huge. I mean, I think it's the WHO that's trying to label, don't quote me on the organization, but there is a movement of trying to label night shift work as carcinogenic.
Yes.
Because there's so much proof that it's totally against what our body wants to do, and that there are health risks, obesity, diabetes, cancer, that are associated with night shift. I had a really good friend, just quick story, back in graduate school, who introduced me to the world of raw foods and juicing, and he was fit and, all the things. And many years later, I found out he died of stomach cancer at a very young age, and I was just shocked. But he also worked night shift for more than, 20 years. And so when I looked at, what could have possibly gone wrong, that was the one thing that he wasn't, living optimally, one factor that could have contributed to such an aggressive cancer taking his life. So.
Yeah, and I want to make sure people know the term carcinogenic means really like cancer promoting, or it's opening the door for cancer to develop. Yeah, so I wanted to, we're kind of on this subject. I wanted to talk more about how it may not all be about diet. And so the focus now is on, like, what do I eat? What should I eat? What should I avoid? Gluten-free, paleo, keto, vegan, raw. The raw doesn't seem to be as prevalent as it used to be, but there's so much about what do I eat, or people come to me and they go, this is what I eat, like I eat perfectly. And there's so much more than that. So you're a nutritionist, so that is your focus. And what else do you see? How else do you see other aspects playing into health?
Yeah, I love this question, because as a dietitian, people come to me and they want to split hairs on calories. What is exactly the diet I'm supposed to be doing? What am I doing wrong with my diet? And there is a time and place where people need to make some shifts, and we need to talk about them. But it's one piece of the puzzle, if you will. And I have seen people, like I specialize in, hormones, metabolism, health span, and I have seen people reverse diabetes trends by just working on stress and sleep, and not necessarily get hyper-focused on diet. So you can't throw diet out the window, because we know that what we put into our body does affect not just inflammation and immunity, but also gene expression. So it's not something we take lightly, the diet.
Right.
But if you already know you are doing pretty good in the diet realm, you're following the basics, which is clean, unprocessed food as much as nature intended, and, has a plant-centric kind of focus, and you're minimizing the toxin exposure, right?
Right.
For processed foods, and you're still not feeling well. Well, yeah, in functional medicine, when we do a workup, we're looking at all the other factors. So stress, sleep, even trauma, previous trauma, like your ACE score, can affect. There's a direct link. There's a great book called The Body Keeps the Score.
Body
that's
keeps
the one.
Score,
The Body Keeps the Score. Like, we know that trauma has that effect. So even like stress could be, psychological stress, or even physical stress, or a combination of both, right? Like we have big T's and little T's, big traumas, little traumas. These things can all play in. I had a colleague of mine who wanted to lose weight. She was in the health and fitness industry for many years, frustrated. And when she gave her marriage some attention and made her relationship with her husband like a 10 out of 10, she lost 20 pounds automatically. And she was shocked, but that relationship had been playing into her overeating and some not good health behavior. Like, it was not even in the level of her consciousness how much that relationship affected her health, right? And so I'm not telling everyone to get a divorce, right? But look around at what's happening in your life beyond just the calories, beyond just the food. And again, as a dietitian, I can say that, like, in all honesty, sometimes I spend more time convincing someone to look at another area of their life than actually focusing in on what they came to me for, which was to talk about their food. Right. Because that ends up being, like you said, a little bit of a hyper focus, and people end up getting really frustrated when they feel like they're doing all things right in that arena, but there's an elephant in the room that they're not necessarily aware of, or may not be ready to change. And that's something, as a practitioner, we have to work with people. Are they ready to face trauma? Are they ready to look at relationships? Are they ready to stop and quit their job because it's night shift, right? Like, I've actually had that conversation with people, like, if you care enough, you would either ask to be day shift or quit your job. Like, are you willing to do that, knowing how much it's affecting you?
Right.
So
exactly.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, and so people understand. You mentioned ACE score. That's a questionnaire that looks at adverse childhood events, and it's one of my intake forms. Is it one of yours as well?
Yes, I think it should be all of, plus a sleep questionnaire.
Right.
Yeah, those are so basic, but they have such a profound influence on our health.
Right, exactly. And then there's a term that came to mind, and you might have heard this. I believe that it's called orthorexia. It's the disorder of trying to eat the perfect thing.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people who come to me who have been trying to fix themselves for a long time, and they're eating like 4 foods, and they've tried every therapeutic diet. They've layered, and therapeutic diets, you might have heard of this before, but are things like, eliminating certain aspects of the diet that may not apply to everyone. So we have like gluten-free, dairy-free, we have low histamine, we have autoimmune diets, we have, all of them eliminate something. And if you layer enough of those together, all of a sudden you're just, eating 4 things. And I see it more often than I'd like to admit, but there's people that their diet just keeps shrinking, and it becomes, very, I would say, counterproductive. And the body, cannot even fully recover on such mono foods. And so I recently did a YouTube video on the carnivore diet and my take on that, and there was so much backlash from the carnivore community. I was just pummeled by lots of very angry people. And I was like, wow, this is almost like a religion. It's not even about health anymore. It's a philosophy, and people don't want to hear anything besides that. And so we have to be very conscious of that people get very tied to certain things and aren't maybe willing to let go of, certain things. And so even if I were to point that out to someone, they have to be willing to do something different than what they've been doing, right?
Right.
Or to see something outside the box.
Yeah. I'd like to bring up variety and why that's so important, because it goes back to the gut and the gut microbiome.
Oh, yeah.
Why do you think variety is so important?
Yeah, historically with every culture, we had variety built in because we had seasons built in, right? So, and, if you think of every culture, like the Blue Zone studies, they study different areas of the world that had people live over 100 and try to find commonalities. Well, every culture's diet is so different. Like the Eskimos don't eat plant-based,
Right.
The Seventh-day Adventists don't eat like the Eskimos. Like, that's very, very different. But could they still both be healthy? And the answer is yes. But variety is a common piece of this, is that, eating according to the seasons, having fermented foods. And our gut has never more been bombarded with toxins than now, right? So gut health is a critical component of overall health. And I could list, statistics, but I would say 60 to 80% of the immune system, which, by the way, when we think of inflammation, it's automatically related to the immune system. Well, 68% immune system is related to the gut, because the gut is a permeable external and internal organ. If you think about it, it's touching the outside world,
right? Even
though it's inside of you. And it's being constantly bombarded by foreign particles, and it has to decide friend or foe every time we eat. It's making those decisions, friend or foe. Do we let this through? Do we mount an attack? Do we reject, try to keep this out, or do we absorb it? And so I would say for sure variety is what keeps the gut healthy, because we have lots of bacteria down there that feed on our food. And if that population doesn't stay diversified, we're in trouble. So if our diet's not diversified, that population is not diversified, and no amount of probiotic pills is going to diversify that population, those bacteria long term. So this is the biggest thing as a dietitian I see lacking in people's diets who are even trying to eat healthy, is the lack of variety. So I would say that is one thing we probably all could work on. I tell people, try to aim for 10 vegetables a day, different vegetables, and that can be from herbs, teas, condiments, even like a pesto. And people are floored by how challenging that is, So yeah, I would say that's an area that, we all need to come back to, is eating according to the seasons, eating more variety, not just eating bananas all year long, but going, wow, actually, at the turn of spring here, what's growing in my neighbor's backyard? What's growing that's at the farmer's market that I could try instead of my go-tos. And even if you do like banana, trying plantain. If you do like apples, trying a different variety, right?
Exactly.
If you do like broccoli, what about the cousins of broccoli that still confer benefits, but maybe it's just a change up, right? Even different cooking methods, like raw versus cooked versus sprouted versus fermented, that all does make a difference.
Yeah, and I got the idea of like an investment portfolio. You don't just invest in stocks. You don't just invest in real estate because everything's fluctuating all the time, just like our microbiome. So we want to have diversity everywhere.
Yes, that's the one. I love that one, that analogy.
Yeah. And okay, great. And I want to touch on, before we run out of time, a lot of people look at their family history and they say, well, my mom, in my line of work, my mom had a hysterectomy, and my aunt had a hysterectomy, and my grandmother had a hysterectomy, all my sisters have had hysterectomy, so I know I'm just going to have one because of fibroids or endometriosis, and that's my destiny. And we know that like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, they do have very strong genetic predeterminants, and we have the ability to change the outcome of our genetic expression.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, I've been fascinated with genetics for many years now, and I think that we don't want to turn a blind eye, especially if you had a mom, an aunt, a sister, all with breast cancer, and you still have your breasts, right? You're like, okay, I don't want to be ignorant, right, of the fact that my genes do matter to some extent. But when you look at the science, it is 20 to 30% is usually the, and even sometimes less depending on what illness we're talking about, right?
Right.
And so I always say, these are the cards you're dealt, but or this is, let's say, the canvas that you're dealt, but what you paint on the canvas, is of your doing. So you get to alter genes every day by just the choices you make. And whether or not you're aware you have those genes are turned on and turned off by all of the things we do, all of the things that we're exposed to. And it's a constant dance, right, of genes interacting with our environment. And this is called the field of epigenetics. When you look at how nutrition affects the gene expression, we call that the field of nutrigenomics. And they sound really fancy, and yes, there's lots of research in this area, but all of this is to say it's been happening since the beginning of time, right? Like evolutionarily, we have to be able to adapt to bad genes. They get obviously filtered out of the gene pool
right.
Over time, but like, it cannot be just the genes are dealt with is your destiny. Otherwise, we wouldn't all be here as resilient as we are, right?
Yes,
so,
yes.
I think knowing your genes is a great proactive approach to being able to be on the offensive and do something about it. So I'll give you an example. I know personally that I have diabetes genes. I've checked them. I have a grandmother who passed away from a stroke that was a complication of diabetes. I personally got gestational diabetes 4.5 years ago, which makes me 4 times more likely to have diabetes sometime in my lifetime. So the genes are strong. The genes are very strong.
Yep.
And instead of like throwing in the towel and being like, well, I'm just going to get it, I'll just accept it. I have been super, super fascinated with blood sugars and how to manage my own. So I've been wearing CGM for fun, which is glucose monitors, and that's a little bit more in the realm of biofeedback. And not everyone has access, although access now is more available than ever before. You can buy them without a prescription now. And then also tinkering with microbiome. We know that the microbiome has huge impact on blood sugar management, right? So I have been really impressed with my ability to alter blood sugars from looking at how to support my microbiome, seeing how foods, different combinations of foods, timing, pairing, and even just, I would say quality and quantity of foods do have a huge impact. Sleep, huge. Sleep and stress. I can't tell you how much I can eat a perfect diet and have a terrible night's sleep, and my blood sugars are just a mess. And I know it's not the food I ate, right? So these are this is going to be a lifelong adventure for me personally, but like knowing that I have the gene just makes me that much more motivated and that much more interested in exploring all of the things that I can do, to influence my destiny. So I would just encourage anyone out there who has a family history of any disease that they're scared of, whether that's cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, the scary one, stroke, heart attack, that like, don't turn a blind eye to those things, but don't be, losing sleep over it, feeling like you're helpless either, because we know that there's so much we can do, and it should be encouraging, right? Not discouraging. So that's actually a huge part of my work, is looking at people's genetic results and then giving them lots of feedback on what they can do and working together with them, because it's not just knowing what you're supposed to do, it's actually doing it. And that's a whole area of behavior modification that we have very emotional, habit-driven people. And so, we're complex. We're not rabbits eating pellets, right? We gain a lot of pleasure from food. Sometimes we gain comfort. Sometimes we gain entertainment from our health habits, good or bad, right? Like people don't smoke cigarettes trying to kill themselves.
Right.
Right. There's a whole ritual behind smoking and a whole, it's very complex. So, and of course it's addictive, but that's a whole nother conversation. But, I would say, be curious, be open to saying why, why did I get diabetes? Why, and what can I do? Right. Versus, well, I guess that's just how it's going to be, because that feels like a death sentence. That feels like you don't have any control. And it's easy to get really when we look at life that way in general. So.
Right. And I wanted to also emphasize that there, in functional medicine and in lifestyle medicine, which is another form of alternative medicine, there are 5 control knobs that we have. And those are, you've brought them up: sleep, nutrition, stress, exercise and movement, and our relationships. So in all of those places in our lives, we can control our genetic expression. And if we're traveling and we can't meticulously control our nutrition, we can control our stress. We can maybe do some movement. We can work on our relationships. If we lose a night's sleep, like you said, we can work on food. We can work on some exercise. It's all related, and they all go hand in hand, and it's not just one. They all work together.
Yes, it's an intricate dance, an orchestra, if you will, of the play. And that means there's a lot of, like you said, a lot of ways to influence the outcome, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, beautiful. Do you have anything that you want to add?
Yes. I just want to encourage everyone, no matter where you are on this journey, it's a good, better, best, right? We're always moving in a direction of wanting to improve and finding the right people on your team and asking the right questions and being open. So critical to the healing process. Letting go of what we think we should be or how we got here. There's a lot of guilt and shame that holds us back from moving forward in a lot of ways when it comes to our health, just like other areas. If you've previously felt like a failure, or you previously feel like you messed up your own health, or you assign any kind of blame on yourself, that's going to hold you back from moving forward, right? And so I think it's just healthy. It's healthy to have a positive outlook. It's healthy to ask good questions to the right people, tuning into stations like this where there's reputable sources that are, evidence-based. I think that's really important to sift through information and get your information from the right sources, because I see a lot of misinformation out there that ends up causing people a lot of wasted time, energy, effort, money. And then they end up finally sitting in front of you and me or someone like us and going, well, 10 years later I'm here, and it's like, okay, we can still do something, but let's shorten that kind of wandering in the wilderness time and that frustration by really plugging into the right people. So I would just encourage people to, plug into the right sources, ask the right questions, be open-minded, stay positive. And also, don't fight your intuition, because I think intuition still plays, even as a practitioner, I rely on intuition to help guide people, not just data, right? And so you are your own best, most intuitive, source, if you will. And your body's constantly giving you information, telling a story, and a lot of times we just aren't tuned in. So and also, if there's a place that you are afraid to go, if there's something that you kind of feel like you should explore but you're feeling resistance, that might be the place that you need to go. Yes.
Yeah.
That's huge. I always say it's the elephant in the room that we really need to look at, right?
Yeah.
And again, if you're scared, that is maybe, like you said, maybe you're scared for a reason because it might make a big difference.
Yeah. And that's another conversation, right?
Yes, I love it.
Yeah. Well, great. Thank you for your time today.
My pleasure.
We'll be right back with more Rooted in Healing right after these commercial messages. And now, more Rooted in Healing with Dr. Beth Claxton.
Thank you for tuning in today. I'm Dr. Beth Claxton, and this has been Rooted in Healing. You were listening to my interview with May Tom, and May is always such a pleasure to talk to. She's a wealth of information. She has a booming YouTube channel that I know you will learn so much from. I do every single time I listen to her videos. She talks about myths on food, on diet, on fads in the industry, and she really clarifies what the truth is behind all of it. You can find her at May Tom RD, as in registered dietitian. And she also has an Instagram channel, which is at MayTomRD. I'm also really excited about our next interview. It's with my friend Jim Whittekind. Jim is a doctor of physical therapy who is trained through the Postural Restoration Institute, which is a budding form of physical therapy which looks at the central nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, and how our stresses and how we hold them in the body affect our pain, our posture, the way we walk. And it's a fascinating interview, and Jim can talk for a long time. It's really stimulating to listen to him. So I hope you join us next Saturday at 8, Saturday at 9. And if you're interested in talking to me more or learning more about my practice, I would love to take a deep dive with you into your health and your specific concerns, whether it's perimenopause, menopause, gut health, chronic pain. I love sitting down with people and really digging through what's going on. Many people want to see me just to evaluate what the state of affairs is at this time so they can be healthy going into their later years. So to become a patient, go to bethclaxtonmd.com, click Become a Patient, and enter some information and schedule a connection call. I look forward to meeting with you. That's our time for today. You've been on KAZM Mellow Mountain Radio, 106.5 FM, 780 AM. Until next time, keep finding and searching for that which makes you feel vibrant.
For more information on Dr. Beth Claxton, visit bethclaxtonmd.com.